Hey everyone, Steve Sudler with Foreign Cars Italia in Greensboro, North Carolina. Today we are out driving for the very first time in North Carolina. We've got the 296 GTB, which is the newest mid-engine sports car from Ferrari. This, as the 296 indicates, it is a 2.9 liter six-cylinder, the very first production six-cylinder that Ferrari has made. And right now we're sitting in the car with an e-drive, so it is a hybrid. So it can go up to about 15 miles in all electric mode before the hybrid kicks in. So as we go, we're in e-drive, and it's quiet as can be. You can tell. It's not meant to be sort of performance-based when it comes to the all-electric. There are some electric cars that are out there in the market today that really talk about, you know, their 0 to 60 time and all-electric. This one is really meant to be more of a city driver. It's allowing you to have the electric capability and the benefits that come from electric driving without necessarily being all performance-focused. But having said that, it definitely has some electric performance that goes to it. And it's quiet as can be. There's no artificial noises or anything like that with this car when it's in the electric e-drive mode. So once you're done with the electric e-drive, we can switch it on over to hybrid mode. Hybrid basically is exactly what it says. It is the electric, it will go all electric, and the computer systems in the car will then determine when it needs to charge the batteries, and it will engage the internal combustion engine or the ICE and charge the batteries as needed. I'm gonna go ahead and go with our full what we call race mode. I have a regular Manettino that we have in all Ferraris. The Manettino is set to race mode here, and we're in a performance mode, which is going to give us the best balance of race and internal combustion engine and so forth from there. So we're in second gear, and you can definitely hear the sound. So in the V6, I tell you that Ferrari's done an awesome job being able to take a six-cylinder engine and make it completely sound like an eight-cylinder. One of our clients driving this car actually said, you know, it's almost at the higher end of the rev range, feels and sounds a little bit like a smaller 12-cylinder rather than a smaller eight-cylinder, even though it's turbocharged. So again, we're getting about 80% of the electric boost that's available. The electric motor in this car is between the internal combustion engine and the gearbox. So we're getting a little bit of the power that you feel in it, but the handling in this car, being about a foot shorter than the F8 in overall length, has a much more of a go-kart-like feel. Very responsive, very nimble. It doesn't feel quite as heavy as the F8 does. So it has a lot of those types of elements that you would feel in a fun-to-drive car, which was one of the design elements that Ferrari was going for when developing this car, with not only the power, but also the fun-to-drive aspect, which is definitely something you can feel in this car. So here we are, going to go on a little curvies here. The brakes feel just as good, but being a lighter car, the brakes feel more responsive. The turbo sound in this car, being a hot V, 120 degrees, so it's almost flat, and the turbo set in the center of the V, which is very similar to the Formula One cars that Ferrari built in the early 1980s when they did in the V6 mode. But the sound in this car is definitely Ferrari-like. Typical brakes on this car feel great, Ferrari. Definitely has the sound that we always want out of a Ferrari. And again, I think it almost sounds like a 12-cylinder. We're going to go ahead and go to what we call qualifying mode. Qualifying mode gives you all available electric boost from the electric motor. So it's going to be upwards of around 200 horsepower, but we'll feel it here as we go. Definitely feel all the electric motor in this car. But the power delivery is smooth. It's almost as if you've had a third turbocharger on here. It's a smooth power delivery. You don't get that boost of power that you do in some electric cars. The computer systems in this really give the power delivery much more than you think in a smooth way compared to just an automatic crazy amount of power. But you can definitely feel it. Definitely has some boost to the power. And what's good, even in the performance in the qualifying mode, it is going to charge the battery. As you're on the brakes, it's taking that Formula One KERS technology, and as you're on the brakes, and it's just charging that battery up. Actually, as we've used the battery here, we started with about 8 miles of electric, and as we've been driving it with the brakes, because we're driving a little faster, you're on the brakes harder, it's actually charged the engine, and our net electricity has gone up, and the available amount of battery boost has gone up versus what we've used. So one of the big things that I notice in this car versus the F8, and the F8 is still a twin turbo car, but we can definitely get a lot more turbo noise in a good way. You get the turbo noise in this car with the twin turbo sitting in the center of the V, high up in the engine. It's much closer to your ears as you drive, so you can definitely hear the whooshing of the turbos, the whistles of the pop-off valves as you let off the throttle, and it's releasing the extra boost that is built up. So definitely a lot of noise that you can hear that really engages the senses as you drive the car. You can hear that sound of the turbo spool up. And the downshifts in this car are just as good, if not a little bit crisper, I think, than the previous generation 7-speed that is in the F8. So this again is the new 8-speed that's in the Roma, and the other cars that have just come out. The Portofino M has this transmission as well. And there you have it, guys. This is driving the new 296 GTB, Ferrari's first V6 engine twin turbo hybrid, and it is absolutely amazing. Just when you think that the F8 was an amazing car and couldn't get any better, Ferrari goes out and creates the 296, and it is definitely amazing. I recommend everyone trying to drive one as you can. Again, Steve Sudler, Foreign Cars Italia, Greensboro, North Carolina. Stop in and see us.